Hey everybody, it's Gomlet X, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have the Midweek Magic event, which is Momir this week, one of my favorite formats on the digital versions of Magic, on Arena and on Magic Online. This format, everyone is just playing a 60-card deck of entirely basic lands. However, each player gets to spend X mana, discard a card, and create a token that's a copy of a random creature with mana value X once per turn as a sorcery. So essentially the way this format tends to go is that players will start making creatures on turn 2 or turn 3 and then just keep getting a increasingly large creature every single turn, get their 2-drop, then their 3-drop, then their 4-drop, and you will run out of cards eventually at somewhere between 7 or 9 mana, depending on when you started playing creatures in the early game. So just a sliding scale of exponentially larger creatures and better creatures as the game progresses, but it's random at all points, so there's really no telling in any of these games which way the game is going to go. So not a ton of strategy in this format. The main thing to note is that you probably should not play any creatures until turn 3 on the play or turn 2 on the draw if you want to make it to your 7 or 8 mana creatures later in the game. And the reason that you avoid playing 1-drops and 2-drops sometimes is that those cards are going to have very little impact later in the game, whereas by not playing a card early in the game, that's another land in your hand to discard later as a bigger creature. So essentially you're going down 2 cards per turn every time you're playing a creature. You're playing your land per turn and you're discarding a land. So of course you only draw 1 card per turn, so any turn in which you play a creature out, that is 1 less land to play later in the game. So as you can see, it's really easy to count up here. Because we were on the draw and we started playing creatures on turn 2, we'll have 6 more lands to play, assuming we just draw and immediately discard whatever we're drawing every turn. So we know by playing no creatures until turn 2, when we're on the draw, we're going to make it to 8 mana creatures in the late game. So kind of a like roundabout way to describe it. Not the greatest explanation there, but I think you get the points. After you've discarded your card per turn, simply count the number of lands in your hand and the number of lands on board. That's how high of a mana cost you're going to get to for your creatures. So again, because we waited, we'll get to 8 mana creatures here. And our opponent did get a good 3-drop there. I did not mention it because I was still explaining the gist of the format. They got a 2/2 district guide that let them grab a basic land from their decks. That essentially made it so they grabbed another land so they can make it to 9 mana creatures now, with 4 lands on board and 5 in hand. So we got a pretty excellent creature at 4 mana here. Literally just a 3/3 flying in this format, but any creature with any form of evasion is super good because the only thing people are doing in this format is playing a creature every turn. There are no instants or sorceries, so the board states get incredibly cluttered. So I assume they're going to be tapping down the Dirge Bat here, and that is why they didn't play anything there. Alright, we'll go ahead and attack for 3 then. I guess they are holding their lands to make it to 10 mana cards now, if they wish. Ooh, 5 mana, we get a 10/10. Alright, well that's probably going to start getting tapped down if they could afford to wait on playing as big of a card as possible. Yeah, they're going to play a 4 mana card so they can leave the 2 mana up to tap down our 10/10 with Half-Elf Monk's Stunning Strike. Well, that's kind of crazy this card doesn't have flavor text, but that's also kind of neat, because you're so used to on all vanilla creatures having like a boatload of flavor text, but I guess on this one, the flavor is that it's very self-explanatory. Giant dinosaur. Alright. Well, I'm going to keep playing our creatures pre-combat in case we get anything with haste or anything that destroys something when it enters the battlefield. So let's see what we have here before we go to combat. Ooh, a 4/6 that can get unblockable if we draw any islands this game. We are going to need 2 islands, but that is a relevant ability for this format. Definitely go for the double attack here. I assume that they chump block the 10-10, because if they don't, going to 7 is pretty brutal here. We have lethal unblockable combat damage here. As soon as we hit 2 islands, we have 3 flying plus 4 unblockable. That being said, as long as they have that half-elf monk on board, they will be safe from at least one of these creatures. Alright, 6 mana card now, the Enemy of Enlightenment. At the beginning of their upkeep, each player discards a card. So it looks like we only get to 7 mana cards here. But our opponent is going to scoop them up there. Too much for our opponent to deal with. They still had definitely at least one more turn to try to go for something bonkers at random, but it wasn't looking super good, so I understand the concession. And we get some extra gems as our rare reward there. So because this is a Midweek Magic format, forgot to mention it here, it will be completely free to enter, and you get a free random rare reward for your first and second win, so I definitely recommend playing these events every time around, especially when you don't have to bring your own constructed deck. Sometimes when you have to bring your own constructed deck, maybe you don't have a great collection, maybe you don't have any great deck ideas, but when it's a format like Momir, where everybody just shows up and they're given this pile, really no reason not to play it, at least until you get your 2 rares, if you don't enjoy the format. Alright, so we're on the play this game, so I'm going to start making cards at 3 mana so that we can make it to 8 mana cards. And I like playing one of each land, and then after that prioritizing mountains and swamps relatively highly. That is definitely the best place, or the best way to play Momir on Magic Online, where you have the history of Magic the Gathering's card database at your disposal. You have cards from before Arena came out, so you have a lot of really old cards. There were tons of like black and red abilities that could help destroy creatures. On Arena, it's less important to focus heavily on red and black, but I still like doing that. And I forgot to play a different land this turn. So we can attack for 3 here or take 3 here. Since we're on the play, I'm just going to be aggressive. And it looks like we get to trade our 3-2 up into the 3-3. That seems fine by me. So token cards don't actually have a back on them. So if anybody gets a werewolf, it's not actually going to be the nighttime version. It's just going to be the daytime version forever, because it does not have a back to flip to. So I don't know if there's anything where nighttime would be relevant. I suppose there are some cards in Innistrad Midnight Hunt that care about it being nighttime outside of just flipping. So maybe there's a creature I'm forgetting about that does. That would be cool. Either way, feeling pretty good here. We got a flyer there on turn 5. Flyers are always going to be great. Super happy with that luck. See what our opponent gets on turn 5. This Infectious Horror, I didn't mention it, but it does deal 2 damage to our opponent whenever it attacks, but it is just a 2-2, so not really going to get an attack in anytime soon. Ooh, a 4/4 haste, and with modular, when it dies, they can move all 4 of its +1/+1 counters to another artifact creature. So if they get another artifact creature, that is going to be really good when it dies later. I think I'm just going to take all this because we can hit them back for 7 damage, so we hit them for 1 more than they're dealing to us here. And I don't really like having to make a double block to trade there, or trading a flyer into that 2/3, because again, evasive creatures are pretty important in this format. 3/7 Vigilance. Well, that's an excellent blocker. We can definitely get in with some attacks here then. Just send the team in. 6 mana now from our opponent, and they get a 5/5 Vigilance. So pretty comparable to our 3/7 Vigilance. Just a big attacker and blocker. Nice hit there, not bad at all. 7 mana now. And Goring Ceratops, it is excellent when it attacks, gives your entire field double strike. So that will be very good for an alpha strike later in the game where we attack with everybody. Even next turn, we could even chump attack with it just to get 6 damage in the sky there, put them down to 4 life. There's a 6/5 on the ground from our opponent. Alright, they're on a 2-turn clock here. We can hit them down to 7 next turn, and then the turn after that, send in the double striking team, with the flyer hitting them for 6 in the sky, and Infectious Horror guaranteed to hit them for 2. I don't think we had an excellent attack on board here. If we just slammed all attack with double strike, they would block this here. These would trade. They would block that there. Those would trade. They would take 6, 7, 8. They'd take 8, and they could also double block the 3, 7. Yeah, they could kill our whole board outside of our flyer and go to 2 life, so they would have been likely to lose there if we sent in the all attack. But I don't think I would have. I think I would have just sent in the flyer. So opponent did still have one more turn there again in Momir. I recommend, just waiting it out, getting that very last hit. You never know what it could be. There are some insane Momir cards, like a Hover Guard Sweepers is a 5/6 flyer that returns 2 creatures to their owner's hands. Returning a token to its owner's hand, like all the creatures are in Momir, will just completely remove it from the game forever. So there's almost always something that could get you out of any situation if you are tremendously lucky. And those are some of the most fun moments in Momir to me, is when it's like, well, I have about a 0.1% chance of winning, and then something absolutely absurd happens. But I also understand this is the Midweek Magic format for the week. There are going to be plenty of people playing here that just want to get their win. They just want to move on. Alright, so we're on the play here, right? Yeah, let's wait till turn 3 then. Oh, we know they're on the play. I don't know how my brain short-circuited like that, but I guess we'll make it to 9 mana cards that way. There are some really weak 9 mana cards that they've put on Arena. They put some cards on there just for Momir to be weird duds. But there's also an incredibly good card, Zakama, that can absolutely take over games. So Zakama is the giant dinosaur that for 3 mana you can deal 3 to any target. So you just get an infinite stack of removal spells to use your mana on. Zakama is an excellent hit if we ever get that. So Minsk and Boo here is pretty good. 4 power and toughness on their 3 mana card. Plus, if they ever want to skip playing a creature later, they can make something a big old XX trample. Or if they get any flyers, they could just skip a turn to hit us for a ton. I guess this doesn't give trample. It's just that Boo has trample. But yeah, they can make like their evasive creatures, their flying creatures, stuff like that, in XX. And of course, in Momir, with everything in the deck being... a land, they're guaranteed to hit really high mana costs. I had to double check Minsk there and make sure that that ability was sorcery only. It was sorcery only, so a little bit of a error from our opponent. They did not quite read the whole thing. But that's the kind of stuff that will happen all the time, especially in Momir, where every single card is completely at random, unless you have an encyclopedic knowledge of every creature on Arena. You're definitely going to forget some stuff on board here. So Florian, I don't know this whole text here, but I'm just like shortcutting in my brain. That's something that I do a lot in Momir. I also do it more than I should in Draft. In Draft, you have time to read every single card, so I shouldn't really do it there. But in Momir, like, it doesn't really matter. So it's safe to just short circuit to, if I hit my opponent, I draw a card. So if I hit my opponent, I look at the top X, where X is the life I dealt, put 1 into my hand, and then I can play that card. So basically, it doesn't matter in Momir, because we'll just hit a land and play it. We could use it to ramp us up. That way we can make it to 10 mana cards by playing a land off the top of our deck instead of one that's in our hand, but not a super big Momir ability here. So Rin and Seri, these 2 parts do nothing because it involves casting spells. This final part does 1 damage to target and we gain 1 life, unless we get more dogs and cats. And nothing our opponent has on board matters except for Minsk. You know, if they get really lucky and they get something that draws a card when it enters the battlefield, they'll get some rats with the Mad Ratter. But it's pretty rare. And then, yeah, Minsk definitely the most important card they have. Minsk being able to make anything hit us for a lot later in the game. So we got a really great card on turn 5 here, a 4/3 flyer that also gains 2 life every time it attacks. Again, as we've been seeing in these earlier matches, any evasive creatures are huge, really lucky hits, because on average you're just going to be getting a creature on the ground, as you can see from our opponent here, and most of our opponents. So it's going to be an excellent time anytime you're hitting flyers. So super happy to hit the Herald of Faith and a Wispweaver Angel. Okay, I am not going to do that. If I exile one of our creatures and bring it back, it will just stay exiled forever. Since it's a token, it will cease to exist in exile. Now is where we could start playing creatures post-combat if I really want to make it to 10 mana cards and above, but I'm not super concerned with that. I think the power level of your random creature at 7, 8, 9, 10 mana is pretty high in general, and it doesn't get that much higher for each additional mana you're spending when it's picked completely at random. So I'm kind of okay just stopping at 9 mana cards, so I will keep... I don't really want to double block here. Let's just take that. We're gaining 2 life a turn. We're not under that much pressure. We're dealing 8 a turn. They're dead in 2 turns. Lost my train of thought again here. I think what I was saying is I would rather potentially be able to attack with a haste flyer like a Darigaz if we get one, than get that little bit of extra value playing the lands from Florian. Although I guess with an activated ability on board it could matter. With Rin and Sari's ability, if we get to like 12 mana or something, we could use this ability for 3 and also play a 9 mana creature. But they don't have anything small enough to use this ability on unless we want to start dealing damage to them. Just 1 damage to them every turn. Well, they are dead on board here. It is their final chance. They have 8 mana. They could get a Hoverguard Sweepers. That'd be massive. Griselbrand is pretty big too. Griselbrand is indeed a 7/7 flying lifelink, so it can block our flyers, survive, and gain them 7 life, or it can attack into our flyers. We can double block and trade, but they will go up to 15 life after they do that. So Griselbrand pretty huge here. Let's see if we can't follow that up with something huge of our own. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. Maybe get our own Griselbrand here. Ooh, Borborygmos Enraged. We can discard a land to deal 3 to any target. So we can attack both here and trade 1 of these into Griselbrand. I forgot about Thorn Elemental's ability. We should have attacked with Thorn Elemental, and we would probably have lethal here. I guess not quite, but Thorn Elemental can deal damage as though it weren't blocked. So essentially if Thorn Elemental sends in, it guaranteed does 7 damage to them. But they are gaining 7 life here, so... I guess not quite lethal. They would still be at 4 life, I think. Yeah, we would have just hit them for 7 more. We would lose the Thorn Elemental. So we just attack them for lethal this turn instead by attacking with both of them. Seems fine by me. Either way works out the same. Doesn't really factor in as a massive misplay or anything. So an 8/8 Death Toucher for 8 mana from our opponent here. And they see the writing on the wall. They know what Thorn Elemental does. They go for the Alpha Strike for 1 last chance out of this one and scoop them up. All right. So we've definitely gotten our 2 daily wins already. I did play a couple games of Momir when I got home from work last night, so I did already have my first win there, so we don't get to see what both of my rare rewards are in this video, unfortunately. But I really enjoy Momir, and that's just what I want to record right now. So we're gonna be playing like at least a half hour of this, regardless of win or loss rate. So If you wanted to see my first 2 wins, well, we have won at least 2 games already, so there you go. All right. I have no idea what game this is. I think it's game 3. But very easy to lose track in Momir. Opponent is going the aggressive route, going to start with 1 mana cards. Not super viable in Momir on Magic Online, but 1 mana creatures, 1 mana and 2 mana creatures have kind of gotten better and better as the game has progressed. Like recently, we're getting a lot of good 1 and 2 mana creatures on Arena, so you can definitely try to go the aggressive route here. And that is what our opponent is going for. And they're hitting decent cards. Like, these are not terrible. The Selfless Savior is going to be relevant later in the game if they get any good creatures when they attack in and we offer a trade. They can all of a sudden just make it trade with their 1/1 instead by giving their giant thing indestructible. We're definitely not going to sacrifice Leaf Gilder. Any ramp you get is excellent, because your opponent getting a random creature at 3 mana when I'm getting a random creature at 4 mana is going to be a big downside for them. We're going to be a good chunk ahead here by just playing a bigger creature than them every turn on average. I should discard some of these planes. We have 4 planes here. We're not going to need that much. All right, just a 3/3 Fathom Fleet Cutthroat. Our opponent has a 2/4 as their 3 mana card, and their 2 mana card here is just a 2/2. We're never going to be casting any instants or sorceries, so they'll never be getting any +1/+1 counters on that. So a 3/3 does block well on their board. They don't really have excellent attacks anymore. We'll see what they get at 4 mana. A 3/3 haste, there you go. Send in the 3/3 haste. They could sacrifice the Selfless Savior to kill this if they want, but then they won't have it around to save bigger creatures later, so I'm fine with this trading with either of those 2 cards. And it looks like it will trade with just the 3/3 on the ground. Our opponent is going to respect the value of the Selfless Savior, saving it for later. What do we have for 5 mana here? Angel of the Dawn, a 3/3 flying, so we yet again have a good blocker for their current creatures on board, and a good attacker for later in the game, being a flying 3/3. Don't think I'll start attacking with it immediately unless we get a good blocker next turn. Oh, no. Obosh is brutal here. Every odd mana permanent that they have deals double damage. That means the Savior does 2 damage. The Karok does 4 damage. So we're going to block the Savior, get that out of the way, because it will not win the fight against the Flyer, but we will be taking 6 damage here. Alright, they're just going to sack the Savior. Okay, we definitely need to play pretty defensively here, but not to the point where I'm not going to tap Leaf Gilder, but I'll definitely not attack with my Flyer. Let's get a 6 mana card here. Ooh, Affectionate Indrik, pretty beautiful. Have it fight a creature we don't control. It would just trade with the Karok because of Obosh doubling its damage, so we'll fight with the 2/2 on the ground there. So that's really nice. Now we block their 2/4 with our 4/4 and we trade, or we double block Obosh. I think we double block Obosh here, and they can only kill one of these 2 because they're dealing 6 damage. They're just going to go for combat before playing anything here. We're guaranteed to get like at least a 4/4 next turn, so let's trade with the 2/4, essentially trading a 4/4 for a 4/4 as long as Obosh is around. So do they go for the 5 mana card here because Obosh will double it, or do they go for the full 6? They go for the full 6 here. Blight Breath Catoblepaw works out pretty well for them. They get the removal spell on a stick there. They're going to kill our mana ramp so that we are at 6 mana still this turn. But because our opponent started playing cards on turn 1, as you can see, they're going to stop at 6 mana here, whereas we will make it to 8 mana. So we will start playing marginally bigger creatures than they will. And a 5/6 is pretty nice here. Flying, of course, being great, but we're at 10 life, so we need to block here. If they send in an Obosh, we're going to trade the 5/6 flyer for it. Just at too low of a life total. And Volcanic Dragon here, a 4/4 flyer. We can block that with a 5/6 flyer easily. All right, 7 mana. What have we here? Yoked Plow Beast, a 5/5. Fair enough. Fair enough. This card from Shards of Alara. Would really like to be able to draft Shards of Alara on Arena at some point. That would be really cool. Because I've only drafted that set once or twice. That was the very first set that was out when I started playing. Alright, Vorinclex is massive here. Vorinclex just absolutely excellent. Probably should have attacked with the 5/5 there. Yeah, because it would just trade with Obosh and anything else it would just kill. And any trade that we make we'd be happy with. I guess they could double block there and we'd trade with one of them, but trading for a flyer is great, trading for an Obosh is great. So Vorinclex is absurd here because it locks down their mana so they can only play 1 card per turn. Or 1 card every other turn, I should say. Whereas it doubles our mana, so if we just want a 12/12, we can get a 12/12. We can just spend 12 mana and go for that, but I don't think we do. I think we still just go for like 9 mana cards. We could go for 10 mana cards, but there are some duds in there. They put like Draco on here or something like that. It's just like a 5/5 flyer or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna go for 9 mana cards here and just hope for like a Zakama style threat. See what we hit. Thing from the Deep. See, this is the problem with the higher mana costs. They used to be too consistent on Momir, so they put a bunch of random cards that don't even show up in Arena's card database when you're searching through your collection to muddy up the higher mana costs to make them worse on average. Which is why I really feel like the difference between a 7 mana card at random and a 9 mana card at random isn't that high, because they've really mucked up the cards you can get to where, like, it's really hard to look up every 9 mana card on Arena that you could possibly hit and figure out what the math is on that, because Thing from the Deep just doesn't show up when you look at 9 mana cards in your collection, even if you're looking at non-collected cards. So it would take some really complex math to know guaranteed what kind of card you should go for. But I'm just going to keep going for 9 mana cards. Because we have double mana, this seems like an excellent game to try to hit Zakama, because if we hit Zakama, then what on earth is this? Opponent can't cast spells of the chosen color. Okay. It doesn't matter. Anyways, if we hit Zakama, we'll have tons of extra mana to play around with it, throw a bunch of damage everywhere. Now that we have a 7/7 flyer, we can start attacking with our 5/6 flyer, trying to close out the game that way. It's going to take 4 hits to kill them with that. But we'll kill them in 2 more turns if they don't get another flyer. We attack with the 5/6 or the 7/7 this turn. They don't block. And then next turn we attack with everybody. They can only block 1. Alright, so here they get Realm Cloaked Giant as their 7 mana card. So Silverclad Ferocidons is essentially a 16/5 here, but we can just trade for our 5/5. And then sacrifice our 9/9, I guess, instead of a land. No, we could easily sacrifice a land because we have Vorinclex out. So we will sacrifice a land to the Ferocidon's ability. Bit of a swamp, I guess. We don't need swamps for Zakama, but we do need mountains for it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need to tap 1 more. Creatures can't attack me. Okay, Blazing Archon. Alright, another card I had no idea was on Arena, but that's absurd. So send in the big flyers here. Yeah, that is absolutely absurd. So yeah, they put in some duds like 9/9 on the ground, but they put in some more variety of good cards too. Iona just being a 7/7 flyer is pretty good in Momir, even if it's not that much impact for 9 mana. But Blazing Archon, 5/6 flyer and creatures can't attack you? Seems absolutely absurd. Absolutely bonkers card there. Well, I guess at this point, I'm just going to keep playing until we get a loss here. Just see how long this win streak can continue. We are on the play. I will start at 3 mana, playing some good stuff. We've got a 3-1. When it attacks, we can sacrifice a creature to make it unblockable this turn. That could be relevant later in the game. But if they attack it, I'm just going to take the trade here. If they don't, though, we're happy to keep this around, and potentially that could matter later. Alright, no attacks from our opponent, so we might get some use out of the Blood Mist Infiltrator yet. And neither of our opponent's cards on board have any text. It's just a 2-3 and a 3-2. So now at 4 mana, Manifestation Sage. Alright, a 2-2 and a 4-4. Go off, Manifestation Sage. Great stuff. So our opponent's cards, it works with auras and equipment. They will not have those, and works with cards in graveyard. They will not have those. Ooh, what is this? Works while it's in the graveyard, so it doesn't matter when it's a token. It is a 2-2 and a 1-1 flyer for 4. So kind of similar to what we got here. We got a 2-2 and a 4-4 on the ground. They got a 2-2 and a 1-1 flyer. I'd say ours is slightly better, because the 4-4 is a lot bigger than a 1-1, but the fact that the 1-1's flying is definitely good. Let's see what we have for 5 mana now. Marrow Gnar. If we draw some rats at random here, we could start trying to flood the board with a ton of those, but that seems unlikely. Is there a way they can double block? Yeah, they can double block and lose only one creature if they block with a 2-3 and a 2-2, so we don't really have a good attack here. Let's pass the turn. So we're going to be playing 6 mana cards and above, so it's basically impossible to hit a rat at this point, and I don't even think there's a 6 mana or above changeling on Arena, so don't think Marrow Gnar is going to do much for us, but it is important to remember that it does have Fear. Fear means that it can't be blocked except by black creatures and artifact creatures, so currently they have enough black creatures to block it, but if they start chump blocking with those later, that might be able to get in for some damage later in the game. Ooh, Muldrotha, we can start playing our lands from the grave. Don't mind if I do. That means we can make it to as high mana costs as we want. We get to play a land and discard a card every single turn. Again, not really interested with attacking with Blood Mist Infiltrator yet. Don't want to sacrifice a 2-2 to deal 3 damage when they're at 25 life. 6 mana from our opponent will show off a 4/6 Tolarian Kraken. Whenever they draw a card, they can pay 1 to tap or untap a creature. So if they play a card that is like 1 smaller than they could, they can tap down like a good blocker from us. Could be relevant later. Go for another forest, and then we'll discard this mountain so we can play a red source next turn. Ooh, Rampaging Brontodon is always huge in Momir. It is a 7/7 trample, and whenever it attacks, it gets +X till end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control. So +7/+7 on the next attack. Attack with a 14/14 trampler, force them to like triple block there to kill it. Just start clearing out their board a little bit, seems good. They got for 7 mana, they got a 3/3. They can sacrifice an artifact to deal 1 to any target. Really big dud for our opponent. Sad time for them there. Get that red source. Get an 8 mana card and then send in the Brontodon. We got another Brontodon, the ancient Brontodon. Brontodon Tribal, let's go. Get in there, 15/15 trample. Maybe these just don't have flavor text because they're tokens. That would be sad. I do want to kill their black creatures. So we can attack with our fear card. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, we're killing everything either way. Cool. That will clear that board down. Ooh, Zatalpa, great hit for them. An indestructible, vigilant, flying double striker. So guaranteed to hit us for a lot. And block well. They have 2 blockers. Block here, take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Far from lethal. We very much have to worry about the Zakama. Hopefully we can hit like an Archon again. That would be excellent. Because we are at 9 mana here. Molder Hope. Get a land from grave to battlefield. Alright, well, I guess we'll be at like 11 mana next turn. That's unblockable. We don't really have good attacks. We could send everybody in, and then we lose Muldrotha, I guess. Or they could just stop all the damage from that, and we lose the 4/4 instead. We're going to have to start hitting them because we take 8 in the sky every turn. Yeah, let's... You know what? I kind of feel like we're sort of forced into the attacks here. Because otherwise we take 9 damage in the sky next turn, and then we take 9 damage in the sky the turn after that. We're dying in 2 turns here. We have to try our best to potentially kill them just as quickly. And we are getting that 9 damage in here. Putting them down to 8. That's a big start. We have 5 unblockable damage on the board. 2 from the Rat with Fear and 3 from the Blood Mist Infiltrator if we sacrifice something. Uh-oh. That's not lethal, but it's a big deal. A 7/6 Vigilance Trample Haste. I assume it just doesn't attack here, though, so they can save it as a blocker, because I could trade with it if they attack in. And I think I will. Yeah, I would rather trade with it on attacks than let them block wherever they want with it. So they do have enough blockers to block both of these, but we can have these be unblocked. We need to hit something excellent immediately or we die next turn. 10 mana, 12 mana, there's just a lot of big indestructible creatures on the ground which don't save us at all against these flyers. 9 mana Blazing Archon would save us, Iona would save us, Zakama would save us. 8 mana Hoverguard Sweepers would save us, Zatalpa would save us. But these are all, you know, slim chances because there's at least like 20 cards at 8 and 9 mana. Probably a lot more than that. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't think there's anything at 11 mana. Do we go for 8 or 9? I don't think it really matters. I think they're both pretty much just as likely to save us. Which is not super likely. Alright, a 3/4 flyer. 3/4 flyer. Sorta does the thing. They're dead next turn to our Blood Mist Infiltrator. If we get there from Infiltrator... Oh no, Tolarian Kraken taps the flyer down. No! So they get there from the Tolarian Kraken. All right, well, that was a swingy game of Momir there. I was like, if we get there from Blood Mist Infiltrator, that'll be insane. But also pretty insane for them to get there from Tolarian Kraken. So, pretty nice game of Momir there. Very close one, and a fantastic place to end it there, I think. So that is going to end today's video. As always, if you're enjoying these videos and you want to see more, liking, commenting, and subscribing will let that YouTube algorithm know to send these videos to yourself and others. And yeah, as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.